Hello, you're watching QPVN News. I'm Anh Tuấn and here's the headlines. General Phan Van Giang attends 11th Beijing XIANGSHAN Forum. Vietnam-UK hold 5th Defense Policy Dialogue. International community stands by Vietnam in overcoming typhoon aftermath. On the morning of September the 13th, Minister Phan Van Giang delivered a speech at the first plenary session under the theme Security, Cooperation and Asia-Pacific Prosperity and Stability. His speech kept a high profile at the event. Addressing the first plenary session, Minister Giang stressed that as a peace-loving country which always treasures international cooperation relations, Vietnam consistently pursues the foreign policy of independence, self-reliance, multilateralization, and diversification of relations, being a friend, trusted, reliable, and active and responsible member in international community. The country is steadfast in its four-nose defense policy, including no siding with one country against another. It is always sincere, loyal, respectfully preserves and develops traditional friendly relations with countries and partners. The Vietnamese defense chief said that, like many places around the world in the Asia-Pacific region, sovereignty and territorial disputes, especially sovereignty at sea, remain challenging. Vietnam persistently resolves all problems and disagreements by peaceful means on the basis of respecting the independence, sovereignty, and legitimate interest of countries, complies with international law, especially the 1982 UNCLOS, strictly implements international and regional commitments such as the Declaration of the Conduct of Parties in the EC, supports the establishment of more effective, substantive and legally binding commitments such as the Code of Conduct in the EC that ASEAN and China are looking forward to signing soon. Given that Asia-Pacific region rich in potential and dynamic development is witnessing an increase in the presence of countries outside the region, he emphasized Vietnam's support for the presence of countries in the region for the purpose of peace, stability, cooperation and development. He added that Vietnam always hopes that countries respect respective independence, sovereignty and territorial integrity and respect international law and regional commitments to actively contributing to building a prosperous and stable Asia-Pacific region. In addition, Vietnam does not accept and resolutely opposes all actions that increase tension, complexity, hinder prosperity and stability of each country, the region and the world. Noting that non-traditional security challenges such as climate change, terrorism, transnational crimes, disasters, epidemics, water resources security, cyber security are really big to each country, the region and the world. General Giang laid stress on the joint efforts and cooperation of countries. Vietnam always shares with countries and international community, always exerts utmost efforts and stays ready to join hands in responding to non-traditional security challenges, to substantively and effectively cooperate to solve traditional and non-traditional security challenges that are currently evolving in a very complicated manner. Minister Giang stated that countries need to develop cooperative relations on the basis of respecting the principles of equality and self-determination of peoples, resolving disputes and disagreements by peaceful means, complying with international and regional laws and commitments, and not threatening to use force or using force in international relations. The Vietnamese minister underlined that in cooperation to resolve security issues, major countries play a crucial role which needs to be promoted in full, responsible and effective manner in practice. Informing that this December, the Ministry of National Defense of Vietnam will host the second Vietnam International Defense Expo on the occasion of the 80th founding anniversary of the Vietnam People's Army. General Giang expressed his hope that countries and defense industry enterprises would continue supporting and participating in the event. On the sideline of the 11th Beijing XIANGSHAN Forum, General Fan Vanzhang, Minister of National Defense, met with Vice Chairman of China's Central Military Commission, Jiang Yuxia. General Zhang thanked China's Central Military Commission, Ministry of National Defense, for the warm reception for Vietnam's Ministry of National Defense delegation. He also expressed his impression on the scale of the forum and believed that the event will be a great success, contributing to promoting dialogue and building trust among the participants. General Zhang affirmed that the party and state of Vietnam consistently consider developing relations with China as an objective requirement, a strategic choice, and a top priority in Vietnam's foreign policy of independence, self-reliance, diversification, and multilateralization. General Zhang and Chairman Chiang agreed that along with the positive developments in the relationship between the two parties and two countries, Vietnam-China defense cooperation has recently received attention and promotion from both sides, clearly demonstrating its more substantial nature, with many practical activities being implemented, namely high-level delegation exchange, cooperation in education and training, military, law enforcement forces at sea, border management, joint research, academic exchange. The two sides concurred to continue to maintain and strengthen the agreed cooperation content in the coming time, thereby contributing to deepening the fine traditional friendship between the two parties, the two countries in general, and the two militaries in particular. Also on September the 13th, General Fan Vanzhang had bilateral meetings with Lao Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Defense Chăn Samon Chanyalat, Cambodian Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Defense Theo, and Mongolian Minister of National Defense Biam Batsok Sandak. At the meeting with Lao Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Defense Chăn Samon Chanyalat, the two ministers discussed some key bilateral defense cooperation areas in the future, including preparations for the second Vietnam-Laos Border Defense Friendship Exchange in Sơn La and Hủa Phan provinces in October 2024. General Zhang requested the Lao Ministry of National Defense to pay attention and direct relevant agencies to closely coordinate with the Vietnamese side to prepare and successfully organize this meaningful event carefully. At the meeting with the Cambodian Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of National Defense Theo, the two ministers discussed and evaluated the recent cooperation results and proposed future cooperation contents. Both sides agreed to focus on maintaining delegation exchanges and cooperation mechanisms, enhancing cooperation between border management and protection forces, and implementing programs for exchanges of young officers and young leaders of the two militaries. During a meeting with Mongolian Defense Minister Biam Batsok Sandak, both sides agreed to actively implement the cooperation content agreed upon during Minister Zhang's official visit to Mongolia in October 2023, focusing on military technology, defense industry, education, training, and UN peacekeeping. At the meeting with Russian Deputy Defense Minister Alexander Vasilievich Fomin and Singaporean Defense Minister Ng Eng Hen, Minister Zhang respectfully invited military leaders and defense industry enterprises of Russia and Singapore to attend the ceremony to celebrate the 80th anniversary of the Vietnam People's Army's founding day and attend the second Vietnam International Defense Expo in Hanoi in December this year. On September the 13th in Hanoi, Vietnam and the UK held the 5th Defense Policy Dialogue under the chair of Vietnamese Deputy Defense Minister Senior Lieutenant General Hoàng Xuân Chiến and the Baron Vernon Coker, Minister of State at the British Ministry of Defence. At the dialogue, the two sides discussed the international and regional situations and issues of common concern. They shared views on the importance of maintaining peace, stability, safety and freedom of navigation and aviation in the East Sea, internationally known as South China Sea. while resolving disputes peacefully and in line with international law. Regarding bilateral cooperation, the two sides agreed that Vietnam-UK defense cooperation has yielded positive results, including the exchange of all-level delegations and effective cooperation mechanisms, particularly the annual defense policy dialogue, maritime security and safety, and hydrography. Training cooperation, particularly language training, has been a high point of recent defense cooperation between the two countries. In the future, both sides committed to continuing effectively maintaining the mechanism of consultation, dialogue and all-level delegation exchange, especially high-level ones, and strengthening training cooperation between military academies of the two countries. Coming up next, international community stands by Vietnam in overcoming typhoon aftermath. Quảng Ninh soon stabilizes people's life after super typhoon. The devastating typhoon Yagi has left terrible consequences for northern localities of Vietnam. In recent days, many countries and international organizations have given helping hands to Vietnam for the disaster consequence relief. Australia, US, Japan, and the Republic of Korea are the first countries to provide assistances. Many international organizations are preparing aid based on Vietnam's actual needs. The Republic of Korean government has pledged $2 million in humanitarian aid for affected areas to help recover from the disaster and soon bring the people's lives back to normal. The figure from the Australian government is $2 million as the initial aid, which includes humanitarian support, emergency relief supplies, and other essential services. The U.S. Embassy in Vietnam, through the United States Agency for International Development, will provide $1 million in emergency humanitarian aid. Japan, through the Japan International Cooperation Agency, aided emergency supplies to Vietnam, which includes 40 portable water filters and 200 multi-purpose plastic sheets. The ASEAN Coordinating Center for Humanitarian Assistance on Disaster Management will provide Vietnam with 2,002 family kits, 1,008 house repair kits, 1,015 kitchen sets, and 3,031 personal hygiene kits. Other donors, such as UN Women, the Swiss Embassy, the French Embassy, and Save the Children, are collaborating with Vietnamese authorities to finalize plans for emergency support. The armed forces and relevant agencies of Quảng Ninh province have been mobilizing all resources and means to support localities and people in overcoming the consequences of Super Typhoon Yagi. All forces are determined to quickly bring the people's life back to normal, as well as restore local production and business activities.
Super Typhoon Yagi's circulation caused widespread rain in Quảng Ninh province. In recent days, officers and soldiers of Uông Bí City Military Command have been present in town to coordinate with local authorities to build dikes and rescue and evacuate people. When the water receded, they helped people overcome the consequences and transported food to households. With the strong support of the local armed forces and military units, local people have stabilized their life up to this point. As soon as it hit Quảng Ninh, Super Typhoon Yagi swept away many trees, cutting off communication systems and causing widespread power outage throughout the province. Mercurely, all Viettel Quảng Ning's underground and overhead transmission lines were broken due to landslides and fallen trees. Nearly 1,000 base receiver stations of the unit were also damaged. Right after the storm, Viettel Quảng Ninh worked hard to repair and restore communication connections.
Với mục tiêu trong 2 ngày tới,
in the next 2 days, our goal is to complete 100% of service restoration with base transceiver stations in cities, towns, and central areas. For some stations on the islands, it would take a little more time. With the joint efforts and consensus of our forces, the work of overcoming storm aftermath was actively and promptly carried out by Quảng Ninh province, while duly restoring production and stabilizing the people's life.
This is the end of the QPVN news today. Remember to watch our news again at qpvn.vn. Thank you for watching and goodbye for now.